Hey, Michael.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing good.
It's an absolute honour and a privilege to speak to you. Really, really pleased.
Thank you, man. Likewise. I appreciate it.
Oh, I don't even know where to start. I wish you could see me. I wish I had video. I'm sat here in my Stryper t-shirt.
Yeah, man. I've been having trouble with my video on Skype on my phone. I'm not sure what's going on, so that's why I have to do everything audio only.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, and I apologize.
There's not many places in the UK that sell these t-shirts, I can tell you.
You wouldn't want to see me right
now. No, you're a good-looking man. You're a good-looking man. I hope I look half as good as you in another 4 years when I'm your age, I tell you. I think I've got a lot of work to do between now and then. Anyway, we'll get cracking, shall we?
Absolutely.
If I get too excited, if you can tell my tone's getting too, just tell me to calm down a bit, because I am.
No worries.
I'm a huge fan, more than I am a blogger or a writer, to be fair. So I only got into this because I just trying to support the bands that I've loved for years and years and years, and do what I can to help them out. It's an absolute, like I say, it's an absolute privilege.
Well, that's awesome, man, and we appreciate you supporting us and standing by us, waving the Stryper flag for so many years. We've been doing this a long time, and we need people like you.
I go all the way back to Yellow and Black Attack. I live in North Wales, which is an eternity away from London. I actually went to London to pick up Yellow and Black Attack from a record store that no longer exists. I was that smitten at the time.
Wow. So now you're dating yourself,
Yeah, something like that. But it's a good time to be a Stryper fan, I must admit. If I look at the past 5-6 years, 5 albums in 6 years, 3 of which in the past 18 months, it's good. It's
Well, you know what we're trying to do? The goal is to keep getting better. And, we took a lot of... We may not have hit it out of the park with Reborn. We certainly gave it our all.
Yep.
It actually started off as a solo album, but we tried our best to make it a Stryper album. And then, I think we got a little better and improved upon that with Murder by Pride. And then I think we've radically improved upon that now with No More Hell to Pay.
I was just looking at the tweet that you sent out earlier about it being top of the charts in Amazon and 7 weeks on another website. It's just completely blown me away. It's nice to hear. It's a full-blown metal album.
It really is. I mean, and that's what we wanted to give people, and we wanted to get back to, and that is our roots. Our roots are metal. We were raised on Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, all the bands we covered on the covering. So we wanted to get back to that and not stray from that. Not that we did on Reborn and Murder by Pride, but we certainly did try to experiment a little more and try different things and whatnot. And this was a no-brainer. Just get back to our roots, give people what they want, the riffs, the guitar tones, in-your-face guitars, solo harmonies, high screams. Give them everything they want and expect from Stryper, and that's what we did.
Definitely. I almost feel as if I'm defending your honour for the past 30 years. Me and a couple of friends that have been huge Stryper fans. It seems such a step away from previous albums. It's like you say, it's much heavier. Some of the songs on it are really, really cool. But songs like No More Hell to Pay, Revelation, and my favourite's Legacy. It just absolutely knocks it out the park. The vocals on that are just absolutely sweet.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I do. I appreciate that. And you go into a studio as an artist to make an album, and you give your all, and sometimes you hit the mark. Sometimes you don't. You miss it, even though you tried to hit it. But I think for whatever reason, everything kind of lined up on this album, and everybody hit the mark. Robert, Tim, Oz, myself, everyone's performances are really great. And we just had fun making the album, and the songs wound up coming together, and everything just clicked.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we got such a great album, and I'm very pleased, very proud of it. I produced it, and it was an opportunity for me to kind of show people what I could do as a producer. And you don't get a lot of credit when you're in the band and you produce an album. for the band. And for whatever reason, people don't take you serious because he's just in the band and he's not a real producer. And, I wanted to show people on this album that I am a real producer, and I can produce albums. And I'm getting ready to produce an album with George Lynch and Brian Tichy and James and myself and James Lomenzo.
I've heard about that. I can't wait to hear the net result in that, I tell you. George Lynch is one of my favourite guitarists. I was a huge Dockham fan in the 80s as well.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. George is phenomenal. And I think it's going to be really cool because I think you're going to hear those flavors of Dokken and Stryper, but at the same time, we're going to try to make a really cool, unique album. And I'm excited about that. That starts in February, late February, and it's just going to be awesome. Actually, what am I saying? Late February, early February. So,
is that what you have to do now? Do you think if you think that very few albums now can sell, even hundreds of thousands of albums and make money? Is that what you need to keep doing? Like say 5 in 6 years, 3 in 18 months, other projects because of the way the music industry is at the moment?
I don't think so. I think quite the contrary. I think a lot of bands aren't making albums because of the way the music business is at the moment.
Yeah.
They're not, and they've literally gone on record as to say and state that they're not going to be recording anymore. Journey's one of them, because they'll go and spend $100,000 in 3 or 4 months making an album, only to release it and see it sell 15,000 units.
Yeah.
And they lose money, and the time and effort, and it's just not worth it. But we've discovered the fountain of youth, I guess, in terms of making albums. And that is, we're able to go in and make an album for a lot less money.
Yeah.
If we get $100,000 from the label, we're able to go in and spend 25 or 30 of that making the album, and then putting the rest into our corporation, and everyone getting a little money and, surviving on that, living on that for a while. But we're able to still do it and turn out records that sound like $100,000 records.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We just kind of figured it out, and we've got this really cool thing going where we record, the engineer we use, the way we do it, and it works for us. And we're able to turn out 2 or 3 albums a year and make money, not lose money.
Yeah.
And not that it's about the money, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The bottom line is this. Although we're a Christian band and people always say, hey, it should only be about the ministry part. Well, look, it's our livelihood as well.
Do you think that's wrongly tagged, though? I know you can never get away from, the tag of Christian rock or Christian metal or whatever, but do you feel that's been a hindrance or a selling point over the years? I know, when I see that I've got the T-shirt on in front of me now and everything, but like now, apart from the obvious, Jesus is just all right. There's nothing. I know there's some more subtleties going on there, but it's not in your face Stryper from years of old.
Well, I mean, we've matured. The message is still the same, but it's just hopefully more matured.
Yeah.
And our beliefs haven't changed. Our faith hasn't changed. It's gotten stronger, if anything. But it just really kind of makes my stomach turn. There are a select few group of people out there that, for whatever reason, feel like because we're a Christian band, we should go perform for free, and we should make our music available for free. And they tend to forget that not only is this a quote-unquote ministry, but we're a rock band, and this is our livelihood. This is what we do for a living.
Yeah. Everybody deserves to make a living.
I'm not sure why. I'm not sure that mentality, but some Christians tend to have that mentality, like, hey, you're a Christian, you should do it for free. And it's like, okay, well, does your local Christian plumber go do your plumbing for free? I mean, it's just the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard in my life. You know? And it's like, we get that from time to time, but, we just keep doing what we're doing, and it works out.
Well, I'm jumping around a bit here, but when you said that you produced the album, one thing I commented when I reviewed it the other week was the fact that it sounded so much better than previous Stryper albums. So I always felt some of the earlier ones sounded a bit, I can't say hollow, but didn't seem sometimes enough oomph there.
I know. No, you're right. You're right, and it's been one of my pet peeves, and one of the reasons why I can't listen to a lot of those old albums. And one of my favorite sounding Stryper albums is, To Hell with the Devil.
Yeah.
When that came out for the time, it really was a brilliantly produced album. We co-produced that album with another producer, and we went on to make Against the Law, which I think was a good album. It sounded good, but it didn't have that classic Stryper sound. It was in a little different direction, a little bit more Van Halen-y sounding, and then when we reformed in 2003 and released Reborn in 2005, I mean, that really was a demo.
Yeah.
I mean, I recorded that at my house, except for the drums. I did most everything at my house. So it got turned in and released pretty much as a demo. And we slowly but surely got better and better. By the time we got to the covering, we really had a system in place of where we record and how we do it. And if you notice from the covering, or maybe even from Murder by Pride on, it's been a lot more consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing that got me as well, I was quite surprised because obviously, like you say, I tend to read all of the sort of, the popular press for the music in the UK, and you hear about everybody, it's sending files across the internet, nobody's local anymore. And even with with the four of you guys in the States, you're still far apart now, and it was strange to read that you'd actually gone old school and gone back into a studio to record this, which I thought was great.
Well, that's the other thing that we do. I mean, every album, Murder by Pride, The Covering, Second Coming, and No More Hell to Pay, all of those albums were made with the four guys in the room.
Yeah.
So we tracked all the basics with everyone together, living at the studio, eating at the studio, recording at the studio for almost 2 weeks. And then I would take all the tracks to my house and then spend the next month on and off tracking all the lead vocals.
Yeah.
And then go back to the studio by myself, and Danny and I would mix the record, Danny Bernini and I. And that's been the process for every album from Murder by Pride on.
With, obviously, with the new album, one of the things I felt in the past as well is that some of the albums were... I almost hate saying this to the person who recorded them, but some of the real piano ballads tended to disrupt the flow for me personally. Right. But that's just whereas the one now, it's more of a guitar-driven ballad. It's the only thing to me that comes close to a ballad on the album, I must admit. But even that sort of rocks its backside off a bit.
Exactly. It's not a piano ballad. It's a rock ballad, and that's the difference between it and all the other ballads of the past, the Stryper ballads. And you're right. I mean, the thing about a lot of those ballads in the past is, they were so out in left field.
Yeah.
Sometimes they worked for a lot of people, but sometimes they didn't work for some people.
Were they mainly were they yourselves' idea, or was that pressure from previous, management labels, or?
That was our idea, and the reason why is because our musical styles and tastes are so wide.
Yeah.
We listened to growing up. We would be sitting there painting the walls yellow and black, and we would listen to Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
And then we'd put on a Journey album.
Yeah. I'm the same.
So we listened to everything, and I think that came through in the songwriting and the band's style.
Yeah. Well, when we go back to what was the thinking behind covering the Doobie Brothers?
Oh gosh, well we've always loved the Doobie Brothers, and that's always been on our list of to-dos in terms of covers. It never saw the light of day on any other album for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And we felt like this would be a perfect album to put it on. As I was arranging all the songs, I worked out that arrangement of that song, and I felt like this is really cool. This fits right in. And when I played it for the guys, when they came out to the house and to rehearse everything, they agreed.
Yeah.
And it just worked. It's pretty much a tailor-made song for us,
Yeah. You'd like to say it just sounds like the way it's been recorded. It sounds like a typical Stryper song.
Exactly, lyrically, musically, and it just really works for us. And it's almost like it was written for Stryper in mind, and of course it wasn't, but it's just a no-brainer to me. I felt like we should have done that song a long time ago, but everything has a purpose, and it was meant to happen on this album.
Well, I was looking back through all the old albums over the weekend, and I was showing my son. I actually went out on Saturday and bought "To Hell with the Devil" on vinyl.
Oh yeah.
And I was showing my son Harry, who's 18, the pictures in the middle of the gatefold sleeve and everything. But
wow,
yeah,
that's incredible. Yeah, and it's really cool to see the resurgence of vinyl as well. Very cool.
Oh, still buy it now. Love it. Still love it. Still love listening to it.
Oh, good, man. Cool.
It's great. We've got a record store down the road. Albums are about, I would say, $1.50 secondhand. And there's some real bargains to be had there as well. I come home the other week. My wife went ballistic. I come home with about 30 albums.
Now, see, $1.50 for a whole album. See, now you know that we're getting rich.
Still more than iTunes, probably. What was I going to say next? Yeah, when I was looking back through these albums, I noticed as well that there's a lot of emphasis on yourself to come up with the songwriting. You probably 95% plus of the credits are solely down to yourselves. How do you feel when you're going into the studio thinking all this pressure's on me, or don't you feel the pressure?
I feel a little pressure. Like I'm starting to feel that pressure now for this George Lynch, Michael Sweet album, because I'm producing that and co-writing it, and I'm not ready. So that's really where the pressure comes from. Is just like having to get ready and like, okay, worrying about, is it going to be great?
Will that be the same though? When that comes about with this super group, as I can call it, will that be a case of with the four of you sat down in the studio together and then going in with four different ideas, or?
It will not be. It'll be a situation where George is bouncing ideas off of me and I'm bouncing ideas off of him.
Yeah.
I'll write some of the riffs. George will probably write most of the riffs. I'll write all of the lyrics and the melodies, that kind of thing. And he'll probably do a quick get-together with the band out there since they're all out in L.A., and then they'll come out here and we'll be recording it at the same studio Stryper works at.
Yeah.
So, it's going to, I think in terms of quality, it's going to sound every bit as good as a Stryper album.
Yes. Yeah. Did that come about because of the TNN connection or?
It did not. It came about because Serafino reached out to me and wanted to put together a super group and wanted me to sing. And he asked if I knew of any people. And I said, well, yeah, what about George Lynch? And he said, oh my God, that's brilliant. I love that. And then I suggested Brian and James, and he loved that. And the rest is history. I mean, it's a done deal. We start tracking soon. And it'll come out next year, and we'll do a video, maybe even a few videos, and possibly even some touring for it.
It must be quite nice having the backing of Serafino, I think his name is, isn't it? The guy.
His name is Serafino. He is the owner of Frontiers.
Yeah. It must be fairly cool having a guy with the backing of Serafino that seems to be on a one-man mission to bring back melodic rock and metal back to the masses.
It's really great. Serafino knows what he's doing, and he's got the goods to deliver. He's got a great team in place, Mario and Julio and Elio and all the other names that end with O. And it's just awesome. It's awesome. And these guys are amazing. They're great to work with and work for. And I hope that we can do a lot more in the future together. I look forward to the future. I'm excited about it.
Well, did I read somewhere that you had somewhere, was it like a 5 or something album deal with Frontiers?
Just a 3-album deal. And the album we're completing right now, which is the live album, that will fulfill the contract. Right. So it'll be time to start talking to them about doing more together, in the very near future.
Do you think that'll happen?
I think so. I mean, we're very pleased with Frontiers. I mean, we love working with them, and I would like to think that they feel the same way. And I don't see why they wouldn't. And I would think that there's an open door there for us to continue working together. Absolutely.
I just wanted to say, obviously, I've been a bit fanboy earlier on in the conversation, but you are definitely one of my favourite singers of all time, and that you still sound great on this album. And I hate to say it, but have you made any pact with the devil at all?
I have not. And, my voice, it really isn't what it used to be. And it's changed. I've lost some range, and it's a little grittier. It's not as clear as it used to be. But you know what? I think somehow I've been able to use that to my advantage, and I think it works. It works for me. And some people, I'm hearing and reading some comments from people that say they like my voice better now, how it sounds now. So, I'll take it. I'm very pleased and happy that I can just still sing to some degree.
There's a lot doing the rounds from the 80s that aren't.
Yeah. And, I'm just hoping I can continue singing for another 10 or 15 years, and I'll be thrilled.
That's one thing, I say this to my son all the time, all the bands that I grew up with, all the bands I've loved over the years, 10 years, there's hardly going to be any of them left. And it's a crying shame.
I know. It's true. And I mean, unfortunately, a lot of times that happens due to not getting along. And sometimes it's out of our control. People pass. And, there are a lot of bands out there that, you can only count pretty much on one hand the bands from the 80s that still have the original lineup. Not very many.
Apart from Kiss. Kiss will still be going in another 300 years. I think they'll just have the franchise going in...
they probably will, and Paul will retire, and Gina will retire, and you'll see a Paul and Gina up on stage, with the wigs on and the makeup, and still doing it. And hey, more power to them. That's great.
I know you said like one of the previous albums, the covering. Now I'm assuming, I don't think I need to be a rocket scientist here, but I'm assuming that you sat down and covered all of the four of your favourite bands. But is there anybody there still that you idolised then, and when I say then, growing up and now as a singer and a guitarist?
Oh gosh, I always loved and appreciated guys that played and sing. Guys like Tommy Shaw.
Yeah.
I think Tommy's an amazing talent. Obviously, Paul Stanley, great front man.
Yeah.
And new school guys like Miles Kennedy.
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started on him.
Yeah, it's just so good. Such a talent, And I really appreciate those. I guess you can call them double threats. And then if they write and produce, they're triple and quadruple threats. So I always appreciated those kind of guys, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that two of my favourite standout tracks on that album were Blackout and Heaven and Hell.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? Those bands and those songs particularly influenced us, and there are many more that did too. Yeah. And we're looking forward to being able to do a covering too. Yeah. And showing people all the other bands and songs that influenced us. And you might hear a Styx track.
Well, one thing I liked about it is that it's weird. I can't quite explain sometimes when it comes to sort of bands doing covers, because I never know whether to expect a straightforward out and out exact same replica, or sometimes I love it more when it's completely changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I do too, but unfortunately there are those times when it's completely changed, and not only completely changed but completely annihilated.
True.
And you're just sitting, listening, thinking, why did they do this? And I've heard that stuff before. We tend to like what we chose to do on the covering, and we'll probably do so on the covering too, or whatever it's called, is, stay true to the originals because they were so brilliant.
Yeah.
Don't stray too far. Of course, put the Stryper spin on them.
Yeah.
But stay true to the originals, and that's what we will do. And, you may hear a Journey song, a Styx song. You may even hear a Loverboy song. And believe it or not, we listen to Loverboy a lot.
Why does everybody tend to give them so much stick?
I love Loverboy. I mean, I think because of the name and the red leather and whatnot. But some of the best songs ever written. Some great songs.
Well, I bet you there's a few people that would kill to get their song on a Grand Theft Auto soundtrack, where you sort of all of a sudden you're exposed to God knows how many millions of people.
No doubt about it. Absolutely. And there are some other great bands that influenced us. One of our biggest influences is when they were called Yesterday and Today. They're now Y&T.
Oh.
And I mean, we were seeing Yesterday and Today back in the clubs at Starwood before they ever did anything.
Yeah.
And we'll probably cover Yesterday and Today's song, maybe like 25 hours a day, something old, or Struck Down, or something like that.
I saw them recently. They were still absolutely kick-ass. They were superb. Dave Meniketti's awesome.
They're ridiculous. They're so good. So you'll probably see something by them on it. You'll see another Priest tune and probably another Maiden tune. We're thinking about covering like Exciter and maybe Run to the Hills. Some really
nice,
really crazy stuff where people go, what?
How do you? A couple of quick questions left. I'm nearly finished. I don't want to keep you too long anyway. With regards to touring, I know you've just done this DVD, but how do you pick now when you've got such a good album out now? Does some of the old stuff have to give way, or is it just a case of still give people what I would still love to hear all the older songs and the classics, but I wouldn't be the least bit disappointed if you suddenly said we're going to play the whole album through.
Well, it's a real tricky balance, and you definitely got to do the old classics, especially when you're a band like us, and our peak album, our biggest album by 3 or 4 times or fourfold was To Hell with the Devil.
Yeah.
So if we don't there are certain songs on there we have to do every night, such as To Hell with the Devil, Calling on You, Free.
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't do those songs, we're gonna get killed, And but at the same time, we've got to fit in some new material. So it's a balance. It's tough, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think they sound so great that it's the new songs that it'd be a shame not to have 3, 4 on there on a live gig at least.
Oh yeah. Well, we just did a live album DVD that you'll hear on the album and see on the DVD. We did No More Hell to Pay. We did Jesus Is Just All Right.
Cool.
We did Legacy.
Oh.
And we did Marching into Battle.
When's that due for release, Michael?
That is going to be coming out next year. If I had to guess, I'm going to say sometime around June or July.
Is that your own release or?
No, that's Through Frontiers.
Through Frontiers as well.
Oh yeah.
Cool. With regards to touring, I read somewhere, I think it was a Classic Rock interview, you're saying that you got a UK tour manager now, or somebody's agent based in London. Are we likely to see you next year? Absolutely. We're coming to Europe in 2014. Wonderful. We don't know exactly where. I know the UK will be, I'm assuming London will be on that. I'm hoping we can branch out a little bit, maybe do an Ireland date. Yeah. We've never been there. You say you're in Wales? It doesn't have to be Wales. Manchester's good enough. Yeah, so, just somewhere north, please. Somewhere north, please. It's an expensive place to travel to, London, and it's. But then again, I've told my son that if you did tour next year, we'll be straight on the train booking the tickets down to London because it's been. I've got him drawn in hook, line, and sinker as well. That's amazing. Well, we'll definitely be there. It's just a matter of when, and once we know and it's confirmed, you'll be the first to know. Thank you. Well, I thank you for your time. I sincerely hope I can get to see you next year, maybe even meet in person over a microphone or a beer or something. Oh, you got a dog. I got UPS here. My dog is going off. Hey, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you, Michael. Okay? Thank you so much. All right, buddy. Good luck with the album still. Cheers. Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye. Who's that? Get him!